Hello everybody, this is Emily Carrillo, and for my learning theory review, I decided to focus on problem-based learning theory. So in this slides, I will show you what problem-based learning is, my first article, then my second article, my third article that uses problem-based learning, and then I will conclude with my references. So what is problem-based learning? Problem-based learning is when students work together in groups to complete a task or problem that's presented to them. This is particularly seen as student-centered. The teacher is the facilitator. The students are given complex problems, and the students use their problem-solving strategies to answer these problems. The ways of implementing problem-based learning theory is the students are first presented the problem, then they are assigned roles in their groups. With their groups, they gather information and do research, and then they come to a solution on how to solve the problem, and then with their groups in the very end, they present their findings. So for problem-based learning theory, a few of the articles they have mentioned what problem-based learning theory is by how they defined it. And so they said problem-based learning theory is learner-centered and allows students to be active members in their own learning environment. It also uses the constructivist theory, collaboration, it's student-led, and it keeps all learners actively engaged the whole process. This program also gives students opportunities to use to implement real-world experiences and problems. And then problem-based learning also gives an opportunity for students to practice their 21st century college and career readiness skills, which is needed by the end of 12th grade. So for my first article, the article is called Engaged Learning Impact of Problem-Based Learning and Project-Based Learning with Elementary and Middle Grade Students. So for this article, the major theoretical perspectives that they used were project-based learning and problem-based learning. They used both of these because they felt that they both well aligned together, and they used various ways of implementation. They also noted that there was positive effects when students used them, and they incorporated real-world problems into their own, into the learning aspect, as well as using problem-solving strategies. So for the purpose of this article was that they wanted to study to see a program called Rocket to Creativity for students and to determine if the students were learning and motivated when teachers used the inquiry methods of project-based learning and problem-based learning. The methodologies that the researchers used were that there were 164 participants over a 15-year time span, and only about 36 of those participants, which were teachers, truly responded back to the whole entire process. The location, it was all web-based. The researchers would email the teachers, and then the teachers would respond back. And these often the methods they used were interviews, asking teachers questions about their experiences before and after the program. So for their findings, they found that there was an increase in motivation and engagement in students' learning when using these two inquiry methods, and then students had positive attitudes towards their learning when participating with problem-based and project-based learning. Okay, so for our second article, I looked at information technology pathways in education, interventions with middle school students. And so for this article, the major theoretical perspectives that they used were STEM, and that is science, technology, engineering, and math. They used, and the authors defined this as short lessons that are implemented using science, technology, engineering, and math that can be incorporated with the cross-cultural subjects and throughout the curriculum. And then for the other theoretical perspective that they used was problem-based learning. And they defined problem-based learning as a way to teach lessons using real-world problems and using the students' funds of knowledge to answer these issues or problems. And this, they also define this as
it was a more active and physical way of learning in their own environment and being active participants throughout the whole entire process. The purpose of this article was they wanted to see if problem-based learning promotes students' readiness in careers. The methodologies that they used was that there were 635 students in 6th through 8th grades with 4 teachers, and this program was with a program in Nebraska. The location for this study was with 2 middle schools in a rural school district in the Midwest. And then the research methods they used it was a mixed method study, so they used multiple. And then the findings that they concluded was that the students had an increase in understanding of content. So when the students were taught using STEM and problem-based learning, they had an increase of what they were particularly looking at and what they were learning, and were motivated to continue on in doing that. For the third article, it is integrating augmented reality into problem-based learning, the effects of learning, achievement, and attitudes in physics education. Sorry about that. So for the major theoretical perspective that they used was problem-based learning, and in here they focused this on it being in a constructivist approach, and where students are working together on solving one problem, and these were often real-world problems. The purpose of this study is they wanted to see if there's any effects on problem-based learning when taught with augmented reality, and looking at the students' achievement and attitudes towards science. The methodologies were that there was 91 students that were 12 through 14 years old that participated. This would be 3 classes of 7th graders that they were working with, and about 50 of those students were male, and 41 of those students were female. And the location that they studied this was in a middle school in Turkey. The research methods that they used were they had the students take pre- and post-test exams. The findings that they found at the end of this research was that students had a higher learning achievement scores, as well as students that problem-based learning had a significant positive outcomes on students. So students that were using problem-based learning, they were well engaged, they were more active participants in the whole entire program, and they saw the achievement scores go up as well. So for how did the authors use problem-based learning theory? So in the first article about problem-based learning and project-based learning, they found that there was many benefits on students regarding their learning and strengths in students' learning. So when looking at the end of it, they noticed that both of these inquiry methods had students kind of skyrocket in their participation as well as their understanding with the material. And then for article number 2, it says that problem-based learning provided positive impacts for students with 6th and 8th grade. And so this would include that they had rich context. The students were able to have experience with career development. There was increase in knowledge, and also the students had active practice with 21st century standards in college and career readiness. And then for the third article, that the lessons implemented problem-based learning provided students with real-world practice and various types of learning throughout the whole entire lessons. So that is what I have on problem-based learning, and here are my references. So I just talked about what problem-based learning was. I provided some insight about that. I added 3 articles that used problem-based learning and demonstrated how they used this theoretical method. Thank you for listening to this, and goodbye.